Cool world. Cool world. Cool World is the sophomore effort from Oklahoma City's very own sludge metal maniacs, Chat Pile. The group is fresh off the heels of their fantastic debut, God's Country, which is probably my favorite metal album of the decade right now. That album was so intense, with the vocal delivery of Raygun Bush ranging from ominous singing to the brutal screaming standard for a band such as them, to these intimidating mental breakdowns which made tracks like Mask and Grimace Smoking Weed.jpg so damn amazing. But my personal favorite track on that album was Pamela, a slow and meticulous narrative-based track which reveals the death of one of its characters and the cause of death so slowly and carefully, alongside the tense instrumentation and vocals which sound like they're a ticking time bomb. By the time the song does explode, enough tension has been built in the listener that I find it hard to picture anybody listening to it without getting goosebumps. That tension and storytelling is what I had hoped to see in an eventual successor. I was initially worried going into this album because I remember seeing an interview with a band member, though I can't quite remember who it was and who conducted the interview, and it was said that Cool World is Chat Pile's Back to Basics album. This was very frustrating to me because Chat Pile is a very new band. What basics are they going back to? They have two very similar EPs which were released in 1 year, and one album which was the band's first big step of evolving their sound. So I guess that evolution just didn't mean anything? Maybe I was misinterpreting this quote, or maybe he was talking out of his ass, but either way it didn't leave a solid taste in my mouth. While initially dismissive, I soon came to my senses and realized opener and lead single I Am Dog Now is one of, if not the heaviest single by any band this year. The absurdity of the guitar tones on top of the crunchy bass riffs and Bush's incredible scream makes this such an impactful opener. Arguably even better than God Country's opener Slaughterhouse. The drumline for second single Mask is consistently in my head, and once again the guitar tone here is so goddamn heavy. It has an almost vacuum effect and pairs well with the heavily reverb guitars in the instrumental segments. I love how the vocals on the verses are delivered. They're so meek and nervous, and you're just waiting for them to explode into the usual Chat Pile madness. The hook is so catchy, I find myself repeating "Trust and bleed I, trust and bleed I" to myself a lot as a vocal stim. And oh my god, that ending is incredible. The maddening shout of "It's your world" is one of the best vocal moments on the whole album and of the year, and a very satisfying ending to the track. Final single Funny Man is about the Joker. Okay, but seriously, the verses here are awesome. The dissonant plucked guitars with the quick vocals spurted out feel like a perfect level of insanity without getting too loud right away. Just like the Joker. I love that every time we hear the verse, it gets more intense until it just meshes into the awesome heavy guitar between verses. I think these singles do a great job representing the sound of this album and the main styles of guitar that will be heard throughout. The heavy, noising, and sustaining fuzz guitars, which make each song sound like a cavalcade of a mess in the best of ways, and the heavily reverbed and modulated cavernous guitars, the type of guitar sound you can hear on the album's second track, Shame, with one of the best hooks of any song here that is so dark and downtrodden. This song seems to be about the development of worse and more inhumane weapons and means of warfare over time. The previously mentioned hook seems to describe the world cracking open due to these weapons and the world leaders smiling as though they are the only winners of war. It is a track displayed expertly moody and angsty. Another big track that I wasn't as big a fan of was Camcorder, this album's longest track. This song is pretty alright. I love how completely depressed Bush sounds, and the shrill guitars in the back half of the hook are excellent. The problem is that the song is way too long. Even at only 6.5 minutes, it really does drag, especially with the last 2 minutes or so being just feedback. It really doesn't do much to hold my attention. This is followed by Tape, which I think those two songs being after one another is very cute. Get it? You tape with a camcorder? I love the bass on display here and the once again cavernous and gothic guitars that trade with it. One of my favorite guitar tones on the whole album. Also, the monotone repetition of "it was the worst I ever saw" is so hard. And I have to appreciate this verse right here. The evils of the world are now videotaped and available for us to watch, yet we choose to ignore it. Some of my favorite songs in the album come in the latter half, such as "The New World," which is incredible. The opening this missile of the horrors shown previously in tape is such a great means of storytelling from one track to another. And holy shit, this is the best hook on the album. The low roarings of "things we can be, lose, and find," which continues into the growling "most are dragged, kicking and screaming out into the new world," which is so catchy and dark and scary and awesome. The new world being described here is maybe a future America with the evils spoken by conservative politicians leading to violent control among American citizens. A haunting message that if we don't, as people, speak up now for progress and fight for it, we will all crumble into a society which hates us all. Oh, and this album's closer scares the living shit out of me. Not because of the lyrical content, but because of just the sheer scariness that it presents. It's perfect. The shrill, lowering guitars, which occasionally back the chorus like a haunted circus, are amazing. My favorite instrumental moment on the whole album. I wish there was more of them. The light amounts of space in the verses, which are soon taken over by some terrifying guitar sounds, just make for the perfect right amount of tension. And the final screams of "no escape, no way out" really make the world, and the United States in particular, seem hopeless. Coooool World presents the world as the exact opposite of cool. The world portrayed here is bleak, helpless, and evil, controlled by money and ruthless politicians and businessmen. While not displayed as obviously like tracks such as "Why" on their debut, I think Coooool World does a much better job making an industrial age nightmare in its lyrics and instrumentation. This album's biggest issue is that, while more consistent than God's Country, it lacks the massive, crushing emotional weight tracks like Pamela or Grimace had. I think Camcorder was their attempt at that, but I really don't think it worked out that well. Just one track with the power of either of those would instantly propel Coooool World to being their best yet. But as is, I'd consider it equal to God's Country. Chat Pile continues to be the 2020's most unique band and the most representative of where we are as a society. Just like the Joker. I'm going to give Coooool World a score of 8 out of 10. And that is all.